So I am out here in my garage testing the OUPES 2500 watt portable power station. This was sent to me for free, and they've been saying, hey, when are you gonna test that thing? So I'm finally out here. This is the Mega 2 model. Let me cover some quick specifics, some specs on it. It is pretty cool. It weighs, it's kind of portable, which is nice. It's got these two handles here. It weighs about 50 pounds, 48 pounds or something. So it's not light, but it's small and compact enough that it's pretty convenient. It says here that the AC output, now I don't know anything about these numbers, okay? So I've got a functional test here that I'm about to do to demonstrate if it's gonna fit my needs or do what I need it to. But there's the wattage, the rated power, 2,500 watts, peak power, 5,400 watts, frequency, 60 hertz, 12 volt, and 10 amp. It's got some USB-Cs on there, which is pretty cool. And it is set up to be linked to additional batteries or even to some solar capability. And they sell those accessories on their website. So you can stack these and get more power and more longevity. Run a few phones off it. I probably need to try that too. There's a 12 volt plug-in there, and then a big plug-in, kind of like a RV or a dryer style. So pretty cool. I don't need to know all of these specs. Like, I don't even know what any of this means, to be honest with you. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna test it. So I charge this thing up. It takes a couple hours to charge all the way full. Nice LED screen there. Now, what I'm doing for my scenario is I'm assuming that it's summertime, which is almost over here, but in the summertime, I would want to power, my first concern would be my two freezers, because I've got meat in both of these freezers. So I am concerned about that. I've got the plugs running to a voltage protector there, and then I've got a extension cord running to here. And so that's two freezers. It's telling me 268 output watts at 7 hours. Now, that's without these running. These are just kind of, well, one of them is running actually, but they're just kind of sitting here cold. When they were first plugged in, it wasn't pulling many watts at all. So now that they're running, let's see if I do this. Open the, if I open the door to get both of them to run, we'll see what happens here. Right now it's putting at 287 watts, telling me it's gonna run those for 6 hours. These are my first priority, these two freezers. Now over there, I have a fridge. So in the summertime, I'm assuming I'm gonna wanna keep these cold, my refrigerator running inside, and maybe I'm gonna try this little AC unit and maybe even a fan. And we're gonna see what kind of power or time this thing will give me, okay? So, go ahead and close these. I think one of these is running, so that's a pretty good indicator, but let's see. Next biggest thing is going to be the fridge over there. So I'll plug that fridge in. The fridge is on. 586 watts, so that's two freezers and a refrigerator. It's gonna give me 3 hours, 4 or 5 hours. Now I think that depends on if they're running. You know how your fridge and your freezers will kick on every once in a while? So I imagine that number will go down significantly. But I've got a box fan here. Let's see what this does. Turn it on low. $500 watts, 3 hours. Medium. High. Oh wait, that is high. That's all the way high. Well, that's running. That's running a fan. Let's see if we can blow this thing up with an AC unit. Let's see what this will do. Now this is a small AC unit, but to be honest, if the power was out in the summertime, we could all huddle in the living room and run this and probably be okay downstairs. So let me see. This is an old crappy one, which might be even better for this test. Fan speed low. Let's put cool. Let's give it a chance here. Put it on half. $700 watts. 2 hours. Let's try high. It's on high. Let's try and move this knob up to, that's pretty cool. Let's turn this up to super cool. I'm gonna turn it all the way up here. So I'll admit, this is being really spoiled, right? We would prioritize losing our meat over staying cool for sure. But what could this thing do if the power went out and we were trying not to roast to death, right? If it was super hot. So 2 hours, I mean, looks like it's got plenty of battery life left, but 2 hours is not that long. So if I saw this, power went out and I plugged all this stuff in and I was like, okay, this is not gonna work. Let's do the fan. So fan, AC unit, 2 freezers, and a refrigerator for 2 hours. So if I don't know how long the power is gonna be out, I wouldn't spoil us with a fan. I wouldn't spoil us with AC. Now we're looking a little better. Let's bring that back. 400 watts. That's 2 freezers and 1 refrigerator. 4 hours. That's pretty good. I mean, it's better than nothing, I guess, right? I was kind of expecting more, to be honest with you. When these are unplugged, it says 36 hours on there. When this was at 100%, it said 36 hours. So let me try and unplug that fridge again. Let's see, unplug the fridge. 6 hours, 7 hours. That's 2 freezers. This would probably be my priority. Well, maybe not. Maybe the fridge, because of the heat, right? Yeah, maybe in that case, I would transfer all of my meat into 1 freezer, hopefully, and then just leave a fridge running. Except that I would use the fridge in the house, of course. But let's see again. Plug the fridge back in. Wattage goes way up. My hours drop way down. Yeah, that's not that long. So summertime, maybe not so much. Well, look at that. There we go. I assume that's not when they're all running. When they kick on, so this probably fluctuates when the fridge and the freezers kind of kick on. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave these freezers plugged in. I'm gonna leave that refrigerator plugged in, because in an actual power outage in the summertime, those 3 things would be my priority, and my family would just have to find a puddle somewhere to stay cool. So we're gonna go eat dinner, and I'm gonna go for a walk, and then before I go to bed, I'll come back out here and check these numbers and update you all. Okay, here it is, the middle of the night. Freezers are 2 freezers and refrigerator still running. The OUPES, it's not hot, it's not smoking, nothing like that. This is at 49 minutes left, 4%, putting out 136 watts. So I plugged this in at 8 o'clock. It is now 2 in the morning. So that's 6 hours, well really 7 hours, six and a half hours, 7 hours to run 2 freezers and 1 refrigerator. Again, simulating a summertime power outage that'll give me 6 hours of food power. I'm exhausted, sorry. 6 hours of power to protect my food or to keep my food cold, which is pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna turn this thing off, plug my freezers in, and go to bed, back to bed. So I'll finish up, I'll do another scenario, hopefully more like a wintertime one, which would be a heater and the refrigerator and maybe a couple other appliances. So, all right. So after the test of the OUPES Mega 2 2500 watt portable power station, on the 2 freezers and the refrigerator for about 6.5 hours of total power. I'm now recharging it. It's tripped my breaker twice because I had it on the same breaker as some other appliances. So now I've got it on a separate power cord, a little bit rated for a little bit higher wattage or voltage or whatever. I'm not an electrician, but it's pretty warm. It seems to be pulling about 1,500 watts to charge this puppy. So I'll have to come out here and check on this every once in a while to make sure that it's not tripping any more breakers. But yep. All right, that's the update. And next I'm going to test it on a summer or winter scenario, which would be just the fridge and a space heater. So stay tuned. All right, so this is the final test for the, I'm going to call it OUPES, 2,500 watt portable power station, the Mega 2. So again, the company sent me this to kind of test it out. I did a summer test where I had 2 freezers and 1 refrigerator plugged into it. And it did that for about 6.5, close to 7 hours. I recharged the unit, which took about 2 hours. Now I'm gonna do what I would call a winter simulation. So assuming the power went out, what would I wanna keep going? I would wanna keep my refrigerator going for the food. Me and my family would probably all move into one room with blankets and sleeping bags and maybe a couple space heaters. So that's what I'm testing here today. So I've got a refrigerator plugged into it already. Now I'm going to plug in these heaters and see how they do. So let's see. This guy's already on, it feels like. Let me try one at a time. Let me try that. So this is on, I'm gonna put it on medium, my little dish space heater. Oh, that heat draws it quite a bit, huh? Down to 1 hour, but that's peak. We'll see if this drops. And then this heater, this is a much smaller heater. This one is pretty good. This would probably do just fine if we were all in the same room. This is plugged in. Boy, that heating unit really draws it out of there, huh? And medium. Let's put it at low. Let's see. Not a lot of difference there. Boom. Too much. 2 heaters is too much. Let's unplug that one. Did I blow it up? I don't know. Let's unplug this guy. Turn it off. Turn it back on. Make sure I didn't destroy it. Wow, that's kind of a bummer. So I mean, first priority would be food, but in wintertime, second priority would be heat, and it doesn't look like this. So 1 heater. So let's try a fridge and 1 heater. It takes a second for this thing to get kind of warmed up. If I remember correctly, you got to push the AC button. Here we go. So that's just the fridge. Again, 5-ish hours out of it. 14 hours, 16 hours, 10 watts. Let me make sure the fridge is still on. Okay, so the power's still on the fridge. Fluctuating a little bit. I assume that's on the low side, because that's not very many watts. I wanted to get a reading of just the fridge. And then let's see, I'll plug the heater in. This is on low, remember, the space heater's on low. 1,000 watts, 1 hour. Okay. Well, that's kind of disappointing. I mean, I know that heating elements draw a lot more watts, and so I would probably have to find a different way to heat a room in the winter if the power went out. Yeah, I'd have to build a fire or something. Maybe I need a wood burning stove. Okay, so let's unplug the heater. See what that does. Drops it way back down. So it will definitely keep your food, your fridge good to go. Maybe some smaller appliances, but looks like heating units are probably out, because I would only be able to use this for an hour, and then, you know, yeah. So final verdict on the OUPES. Again, not a super extensive test. I think for my scenario, that's probably the most likely situation, a power outage. So we found that with the winter test, or with the summer test, 2 freezers and a refrigerator did pretty good. That would last for about 6 hours. And I want to say that's the longest, 2 or 3 hours is the longest ordinary power outage we've had, you know, so something more serious. I don't know if that would help me. Maybe I could unplug them and plug them back in, or alternate them, or something along those lines. The winter test, not as impressed. You know, the heating element, that's not that great. Keep your fridge going, which is good, but I was really hoping it would be able to sustain some sort of light heat, at least one space heater, you know, for a while, but 1 hour for both, that's not very long. So I would not be able to use this unit to heat one room to keep all my family in with blankets and sleeping bags. We'd have to find some other way to do that. Now, what I could see this thing being used for, and this will probably be my application, so summertime power outage, that's great. I like that. But camping, I could see this being very, very useful camping, because the type of electronics and that you use for light camping or regular camping, this would do great. All of your electronics, it would, you know, maybe some lighting, maybe some light cooking or something like that. It even has a 30 amp plug, which I think that's like my RV plug. Could this thing run a whole RV? Maybe that'll be another video that I do to see if it'll do that, because I have a small RV that has a plug kind of like that. So anyway, that's my verdict. I appreciate them sending this out, the Mega 2. And also these things, they stack too. So you can get batteries that stack on top of each other to increase the power, like how much power it can put out and how long I assume it can sustain itself. And it has solar panels too that it sells with it. So primarily, probably this will be short-term emergency, you know, power outage, something like that, critical things, or camping. That would be my 2 best guesses as a use case for this this little unit. So that's my review. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope it gave you a little bit of information that you could use if you're considering buying one of these. Go over the specs one more time. Again, it weighs about 40 pounds, 48 pounds, 50 pounds. Its rated power is 2,500 watts. Peak power is 5,400. Although I feel like we just saw it shut off at less than that. So maybe it got up too quickly. Maybe that was the problem. I don't know. 60 hertz, rated voltage, 12 volt, 10 amp, USB outputs, and then there's an Anderson output, which is 12 volts or 30 amps. So battery rated capacity is 2048 WH. I'm not sure what that means, but rated voltage 51.2. Battery type, it's a LiFePO4. It's not waterproof, IP21, so I think that's like water resistant. Yeah, 48 pounds. Pretty small unit. It's about the size of 2 or 3 car batteries, but anyway. That's it. That's my review. I hope that gives you some info if you're considering buying one of these, but that's it. Mike, take a whiskey, all clear.